Okay, as promised, with me is Salim Suterwalla of Bulls Gold, the new show on the Barroom Network. Salim, how are you doing?
I'm great, Aldo. Thank you so much for having us, and I'm very excited to join the network.
All right, so before I talk extensively about your show, about you and your partner on this show, I want to ask you some Bulls questions to start things off. First question: do you, in your gut, feel, based on what you know now, I know there's still a lot of player acquisition moves ahead for the Chicago Bulls, but based on your gut right now, do you think the Chicago Bulls will be in the playoffs next season?
I think they will be in the play-in game. I know that's kind of a weak answer, but right now, as the roster constructed, I think they can be in the play-in game. Getting into the playoffs, there's teams in the East, they're gonna. You talk about, okay, the Bulls have young players that can improve, chemistry improve. You could say that for all the other teams too.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for me to see right now any team right now for the Bulls to jump any of the teams that finished ahead of them until we see other moves that happen. And it is always dependent on moves. Unfortunately, you can try to ignore that aspect when you're talking about how the teams will finish. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I would say right now, playing game is realistic. I couldn't pencil them into a playoff spot.
There's still a lot of questions that need to be answered before someone can declare, yeah, this is a playoff team or this is not a playoff team. There's still a lot of things ahead. So that's my next question. What one player acquisition move would you love to see, within reason, of course, would you love to see this team acquire over the next couple of weeks, and that you think will take your thinking from, okay, this now is starting to feel like a playoff team?
Right. Well, Kawhi Leonard, that's very reasonable, right? No, I'm kidding. No, so there's been a lot of rumors. Obviously, the Bulls have been linked to Lonzo Ball. They've been linked to all these other players. One person that was available, been made available via trade, is a guy like DeJounte Murray out of San Antonio. He would be absolutely amazing if they could trade for him. He's exactly what the Bulls need as far as a backcourt mate for LaVine. He is a great defensive player, not only on ball, off ball as well. Like, you talk about point of attack defense, the Bulls really lack in that. He's not a traditional half court point guard there, but he is a good decision maker. So I think he would boost the Bulls in that regards too. As far as being able to move the ball, he has low turnover rate. That's something that the Bulls struggle in the fourth quarter a lot with Zach and Kobe handling the ball. They're not necessarily are guys that make bad decisions with the ball, but they're kind of careless in how they protect the ball too. Mm-hmm. So yeah, he would upgrade so much. He's not a shooter necessarily, but I'm not concerned about shooting. He can score the ball still in certain aspects. So to me, he would be just like an amazing get if the Bulls could somehow trade for him.
Now, another one for you. Do you think that Patrick Williams could be that third star on this team, maybe in a couple of years? The old saying is Chicago, their basketball teams need 3 stars to compete for NBA championships. The Bulls, of course, we know who their 3 stars were in the first three-peat. We know who their 3 stars were in the second three-peat. You think Williams could play that third role in this Chicago Bulls team? Can he develop quick enough? And have you seen enough of him to proclaim him a future star?
To answer the last part first, I'm not sure if I've seen enough from him.
Okay.
To be a future star. I think he could definitely be a very high level role player at least. Mm-hmm. Now, that's not to say he'll not be a star. I like Pat a lot. I think the intangibles and the development, we'll see how that goes going forward. He's a gym rat by all things that we hear about him. He's constantly trying to get better. The thing that's going to maybe hold him back is his aggressiveness on the court, his kind of like, let's get in there and go mentality. That's something that he's never had, even back in his days in high school. If you really go look it up, he's never really been that kind of guy. So that's kind of a tough thing to just change one day when you're in the pros, right? Mm-hmm. So I'll say I wouldn't be confident in him being a star, but I won't brush it off. I'm not gonna say that, like, I won't one day be shocked that if it happens. Mm-hmm. But I definitely like him as a high level role player. And I know a lot of people hate that answer, like they don't want role players. But when I talk about high level role players, when you consider guys that can make high level impact on the court, not just scoring the ball, but they do a lot of different things. They're good vision on the court, passing, understanding defensive principles, doing multiple things, not only on ball defense, but being great help side defenders, knowing when to rotate over on a high level. So all those little things. I remember a guy like AK-47, if you remember Andrei Kirilenko, for example. Now, he wasn't a star. I mean, he made maybe one all-star game or two, but this guy was kind of like a jack of all trades. And if Pat could become that, I would consider that pick a super success.
Yeah,
in my opinion,
absolutely.
A guy like if I'm imagining a guy like Andrei Kirilenko in today's league, he would be so fantastic. The guy that can do so many different things, like a 3-4 combo. Being a guy that, like I said, fills up the box score. You see the game, and end of the game, he has like 15 points, 8 rebounds, 4 steals, 3 blocks. Like 7 assists, just always like just filled up the box score and put his fingerprints all over the game, his footprints all over the game. So that's the type of player I can realistically see Pat becoming. But like I said, that's not necessarily a star, but that's a really high level role player.
Well, great answer. Now, last Bulls question before we talk about your Bulls show and about you and your co-host. Do you think, I like to evaluate players and coaches and managers and so forth under the prism of, can this person help us win a championship now?
Right.
Or in some cases, like a Patrick Williams, he could probably help us win a championship now, but I would almost give him a different category, hopefully in 2 or 3 years, if he becomes our next Kirilenko, the NBA's next Kirilenko. Do you think that Coach Billy Donovan is a guy that can help the Chicago Bulls win championships at all? Because I do have some concerns based on his previous record.
I'm with you. So I definitely think he's probably A to B coach. I know that's a lot of time that's like old school way of saying A to B and then B to C. I think he's a guy that can probably teach them how to win. I do have concerns too if he's a guy that can take you to C once you have the talent. He's had shortcomings before. I know guys like Russell Westbrook aren't the easiest to coach sometimes, but you see their struggles in the playoffs, even with KD, and they were one of the teams that blew a 3-1 lead. That's rare in the playoffs to blow a 3-1 lead to a team that you have essentially had put away, and then that other team comes back to beat you. There's definitely question marks there. I question sometimes his rotations, his lineups, and obviously last season was different just because the Bulls don't have a lot of talent. So I know he's trying to scrape and find different lineups that could probably work. I know I've mentioned this often, but a guy like Garrett Temple was so valuable to the Bulls. And Garrett Temple, no disrespect to Garrett Temple, he's a journeyman, a vet, a pro's pro, but he's generally like a ninth or guy on a good team, ninth rotational guy on a good team, like a really good playoff team. He's not a guy that if he's missing, you're not like, great, what the hell are we going to do now? And when he missed games last year, he was probably our best perimeter defender, best point of attack defender. So we saw that gapping on, and kind of shows you how much talent this roster lacks. So I wanted to criticize Billy a lot last season, not a lot in certain respect in rotation lineups, his decision making. which some of it was fair, but at the same time, when you look at the talent on this roster, it's like, well, we'll see what happens next season if Arturas Karnisovas and Mark Eversley are able to add talent this offseason. Next season becomes, hey, let's go. We got to make the playoffs, and Billy, no excuses. You need to do a good coaching job.
Well, I think our listeners and viewers can see why I'm so excited that Bulls Gold is coming to the Barroom Network. Salim is half of the reason I'm so excited. The other half is Edward Schuler, who couldn't join us tonight, but the two of you guys co-host an excellent show. Tell our listeners and viewers what it's all about. What was the premise behind the development of the show, and tell me how it's gone over the years.
Yeah, so Ed and I are just fans. That's what we really are. To the core, to the beginning of it, we're fans. We just love talking about the Bulls. We love the NBA. We love talking hoops. And Ed actually started the podcast himself. I've known him for a few years. We used to post on this message board together called Real GM. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but it's kind of a popular-ish message. They have a popular Bulls message board there. So he decided to start this Bulls Gold podcast. He started like a website too and everything like that. Mm-hmm. And, he reached out to me. He's like, I've always really liked the way you've interacted. I've liked a lot of your, opinions are level-headed. Not necessarily agreed with everything, but you're always level-headed in how you approach your conversations. I would love to, if you, as a contributor, I was just supposed to be a contributor originally, but I kind of just clicked with us. And I just became a weekly, appearance, and we became co-hosts out of nowhere. So, it's worked out well. It's like I always like to say, I'm not an expert by any means. Like I said, I'm a fan to the core, but I like bringing guests onto the show that know what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. And I like bringing new viewpoints and experiences. One thing I really like doing is getting out of the Bulls bubble, where we're only focused looking things as in the see red eye. Let's get out of that view. I like bringing fans of other teams, like people that cover other teams have unbiased opinions. That's what it's about. We're trying to be level-headed but unbiased at the same time, and just put on a good show in general.
One of the things that the description of your show on Apple is from Norm Van Leer to Michael Jordan to Derrick Rose. The Chicago Bulls history is loaded with memorable shots, championship runs, and captivating players. That's an interesting kind of lead, they say in the newspaper business. That's your lead into what your podcast is about. I thought that was fascinating. So you guys talk about the history a lot too, huh?
Right, yeah, we do. Like, especially when the Last Dance was on, we had a lot of guests on to talk about old Bulls games. Mm-hmm. A lot of times we try to mix it up and just have fun with it. There is history with the Bulls, mm-hmm. Whether it's the 90s Jordan, or even go back to the days of Jerry Sloan and Norm Van Leer, where those teams probably get a little underrated because they were probably one game away from going to the finals. Yep. and potentially if they get to the finals, I think that could have been a very winnable series for them. Yep. So I think they probably get a little forgotten because of the 90s Bulls. Yep. But yeah, this team has a lot of rich history, a lot of fun history. Even when the times they haven't been competitive as far as being like a championship caliber team, there's a lot of fun games and fun players to reminisce about on this team. So yeah, we like to get into all of that.
Dick Motta was the coach of the Chicago Bulls during those years, and I'm looking this up really quickly as I'm talking here, but there was just a number of years where they won 50 or more games. Yeah, starting in the 1970-71 season, Motta's team, Bulls team, 51-31, followed by 57-25, followed by 51-31, followed by 54-28, and the streak ended there, but they still had winning seasons afterwards. Yeah, that's an underappreciated, forgotten Bulls era that Unfortunately, we didn't have high def TV back then, so we can't
Right.
pristine pictures. A lot of times when I look back at even the Jordan era, the pictures are fuzzy now. I'm like, no, please, somebody upgrade this to high definition.
No, yeah. You look at even stuff from like 2008 now, videos from then, it's like really bad videos. It's like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like, how come it didn't look like this when we watched it back then?
Like, exactly. I think these production companies really need to figure out that there's value in these old tapes. In the resale market, there are fans who would love to buy this stuff, but the quality has to be better than some of the stuff that we're seeing out there. Tell me a little bit about Ed, besides what you've already shared, that you guys met each other via that Real GM post. And how would you describe him as a podcaster? What's his style like?
Yeah, I jokingly call him the Barry White of Bulls podcasting. He's has a very deep voice. He's a very chill guy, very chill, very relaxed.
Hey, welcome to Bulls Gold here on Nothing But Net Radio. I'm Edward Schuler, joined by Salim Suterwalla. Salim, how's it going, man?
So Ed actually was originally from New York. He moved. He was a Bulls fan that lived in New York as a kid. And then he moved around. I think he moved to Georgia for a little bit. He's currently in North Carolina. But yeah, he's a Bears and a Bulls fan. I'm a huge Bears fan, huge Sox fan. It's funny, I actually became a Sox fan because Jordan wanted to play for them.
Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, obviously never actually played for the pro team, but when he decided to say I want to play for the White Sox, I was like, oh, okay, well, White Sox. Because at that time, the only sport and league I cared about was the NBA and the Bulls.
Okay.
I didn't become a Bears fan until high school when Urlacher joined the team. Okay. That's when I became a Bears fan. But yeah, the Bulls are like my passion, my all-time like favorite team that I can never give up. Like I'm hooked to them. They could win one game and I'll still watch every game and still irrationally get upset about things with the team.
Salim, I am so excited that you and Ed are joining the Barroom Network. Bulls Gold will premiere tell us when.
They'll appear like August 15th, I want to say. And August 15th can't come here soon enough.
And we will be listening to Bulls Gold. Thank you very much, Salim, for being here. And we'll be right back after this message.